How y'all doing? It's Brandon again. It's been a while since I gave myself the time to do a video. I've been a bit busy. My life, work schedule has changed. A lot of things have happened since I talked to y'all last time. Not a lot of y'all talked to anyway. I hope my audience grows. I hope whoever watched this video, tell your friends about this video. Try to get them to like, comment, subscribe. I'm not doing this for fame. I just want to reach enough people where maybe it'll change your mind. And if I don't change your mind, maybe it'll encourage you to start looking at things for yourself, and maybe that will change your mind. Like I've always said, don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for anything that I say. I want you to research it yourself. A couple of things that have been bothering me for a while. Joe Biden's been the president since January of 2021, so about 5 months. And I want to ask you, has your life gotten better? Do you think this administration is better run than the last administration? That's kind of the overarching topic to the subtopics that I want to talk about. The first of those topics is how we've been conditioned to pretend. Conditioned to pretend on a lot of stuff. Conditioned to pretend about the coronavirus. Conditioned to pretend that police are the problem when it comes to violence in our inner cities and the underperformance of black folks in education, socioeconomic status, and on that note, racism. We've been conditioned to pretend in this country, especially the last year. The death of George Floyd gave the people who do nothing but make this country worse. It gave them the shield and the protection, the ammunition they needed to do what they've been wanting to do for a long time. Behave in the manner that you've seen them behave in the last year and a half and face no consequences for it. You can say that it was tragic. Yes, it was tragic. But that's what I want to talk about. We've been conditioned to pretend that every single thing that happens between a white police officer, and in some cases a black police officer, and a black male, most of the time it's male, and even female in the case of the 14-year-old who was shot a couple of months ago. We've been conditioned to pretend that police are the problem. And I actually kind of like that police departments are starting to release body camera video within days of the actual incident, because once you're confronted with irrefutable, objective evidence, like a video, that what you believe is false, what will you do? And I think that says a lot about the strength of the person. What I would hope a rational person would do is if they take a belief, if they take a position, and that position is based on what their friends are telling them, what the news is telling them, and then the video comes out, and the video doesn't show this person just walking down the street or on the way to church or on the way to prayer meeting, and police officers just pull it up and shooting them for no reason. The video actually shows a 14-year-old girl trying to stab another 14-year-old girl after she's already attempted to stab a third teenager in front of a police officer. That police officer shoots the girl only to prevent her from the imminent, absolute, it's incontrovertible, only to prevent her from stabbing another person, and we're still rioting in the streets. You got otherwise rational people who are pretending that somehow that cop was in the wrong, that somehow he should have just allowed her to stab that other child, or somehow disarm that girl with the knife. Now, let me explain something to you. This is a distinction that if you're not in law enforcement, you won't understand, because you'll hear a lot of people say, if I was to ask the average person, hey, should the average police officer be willing to give his life in defense of another person? The average person would say yes. I've been a police officer almost 15 years now. You are incorrect. You don't have to. That is an unreasonable expectation of any police officer. Anybody in any profession, even police officers in the military. I am not going to give you my life. I'm not giving you anything. I signed up willing to risk my life, but I'm not giving my life. I'm not giving you anything willingly. You're going to have to take it. And even these days, it is not easy. And you say, well, Brandon, what's the difference? Well, giving my life to somebody would mean, hey, you're about to stab this person, I'm going to let you kill me. No. Risking my life means I put myself in that position. I'm going to stop you from stabbing that person, and I'm going to put myself in danger to stop you from doing that, which is exactly what police officers do every single day. The distinction is giving rather than risking. I'll risk my life. I'm not giving you nothing. Now, you can quibble with me if you want to, but there's a huge difference between those two concepts. Giving your life in defense of something is not the same as risking it. Some historians think that's the difference. That's the difference between the American military and other militaries. That's what got it. That's what won us World War II. The Japanese. I saw a documentary. I've read books. The Japanese soldiers, when they left for war, would kiss their wives goodbye because they didn't expect to see them again. The American soldier in World War II was the first in modern history who expected to come back home. So if you don't want to die, you don't go there expecting to give your life. You're risking it, but you're not giving it. If you go there expecting to see home again, you're going to fight a little harder. It is an unreasonable expectation. If you hold that expectation in your head that a police officer is supposed to give his life for somebody else acting stupid, that is an incorrect assumption. Police officers have families like everybody else. Police officers want to go home at night like everybody else. And if your response to that is, well, you should do another job, you are an idiot. When you sign up for the military, I knew full well that it was a possibility I could die. I know full well every time I strapped that vest on, I could die. But that's not my expectation. I accepted the possibility, but I'm not giving you nothing. With that in mind, I want you to think about things like the incident in Atlanta. After they did a DWI investigation, they moved in to arrest this gentleman, and he fought them. He took one of the officer's tasers, shot the taser at the officer, missed, and was killed by the officers. Now, I don't know the district attorney. He has since lost the election. There's another district attorney in there, and I haven't heard much about the case since. My expectation is that case will be quietly dropped. Now, I don't, like I said, I don't know that district attorney, but if he's been there for an extended period of time, even a little bit of time, he knows that if you take a taser from a police officer, that is then a lethal situation. Not lethal because a taser in itself is lethal. It's lethal because it incapacitates you. Incapacitation for 5 seconds. It causes neuromuscular incapacitation. For 5 seconds, you are basically paralyzed. You can do a lot in 5 seconds. You can stomp my head in 5 seconds. You can take my gun out of my holster and shoot me in the head in 5 seconds. That's why lethal force is authorized in most cases when you take a taser from me and try to use it against me. Charging those officers with murder or anything is malicious prosecution. Now, on the same note of being expected to pretend, I'm expected to pretend that police officers are the problem when it comes to violence, when it comes to, young black men being scared to walk down the street. I'm expected to pretend that police are the problem, even though I know full well, and anybody who has a pair of eyes knows full well that is not the case. Now, when you talk about violence, and you talk about violence against black men, if there is a danger, a risk of violence to young black men, I know I'm going to get a lot of pushbacks from this, but like I said, don't take my word for it. I want you to look at the statistics of who poses the biggest threat to young black men when it comes to serious bodily injury or death. Police officers or the young black men? As a matter of fact, interracial killings are pretty rare. I think it's like 89% of black folks are killed by other black folks, and it's pretty high among Hispanics and whites as well. But however small though it may be, the percentage of intra-racial killings speaks for themselves. These are FBI statistics. I am not going to do the work for you. You are grown men and women. If you're watching this channel, I assume you are a logical person who bends to reason when it comes to forming your opinions about topics. So I am going to tell you this, and if you don't believe me, I want you to prove me wrong. The number of black people killed by white people in this country is half the number of white people killed by black people. I'll say that another way. If you take the number of black people that are killed by white people in this country, double that. That is the percentage anyway. The percentage of black folks that kill white folks. Let me say it a third way. Black folks kill twice as many white folks as white folks kill black folks. Can you prove me wrong? Now, I may be off depending on the statistics you look at. My point is, it is significantly more. When it comes to violent crime in this country, black men between the ages of 18 and 40 represent almost 50% when it comes to perpetrators and over 50% when it comes to victims. Now, black folks as a whole are about 13% of the population in this country. You cut that in half because half of us are women. Women don't commit crimes. They do. I'm speaking in general. Most of the crimes, the vast majority of the crimes, I'm talking upwards of 90, in excess of 90% of the violent crimes in this country, when a black person is involved, it's a black male between the ages of 18 and 40. Prove me wrong. These are facts. I'm not saying this to hurt your feelings. I'm not saying this because I hate my people. I actually love my people. We're better than what we've been acting. We don't have to behave the way we've been behaving. Whenever you see a police officer, you don't have to argue with him, be violent with him. You're not afraid. I mean, if you are a cop or you know a cop, or you've done a ride along, or you've seen more than a couple interactions between cops and black males, they're not afraid of us. They're not afraid. They, as a matter of fact, the behavior that you witness tends to make one believe that they actually know damn well nothing's gonna happen to them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be acting that way. Let me explain to you what privilege is. Privilege is being able to be comfortable enough to yell in the face of a cop and tell him to take his badge off, and you know there will be no negative repercussions for that. That's privilege. You know who does that. If you don't, you know who I'm talking about. But that goes along with the topic that I'm talking about, being expected to pretend. Now, I'm going to take a hard right Stop talking about that. Let's talk about the coronavirus. How we're being expected to pretend. We're expected to pretend that the coronavirus is the deadliest thing since the Black Plague. Now, full disclosure, I had coronavirus, as did another very close member of my family. I had it back in December. I got it at a jiu-jitsu seminar. It lasted for about 10 days. I started to panic when I couldn't smell or taste anything at about day 8. But after that, it was over. I don't wish it on anybody. It was not pleasant. It was not fun. But I have definitely been sicker in my life. That's not the sickest I've been by far. Now, I understand there are varying degrees of effect that this virus has on people, depending on who you are, your comorbidities, and that kind of thing. But I am expected to pretend like I survived Pearl Harbor or something because of that. I'm expected to pretend that wearing a mask makes me a good person. Now, visible representations of your character tend to be more important to people who have poor character. I'll just leave it at that. If you think you wearing a mask makes you a good person, you're probably not a good person. If you think getting the vaccine makes you a good person, you're probably not a good person. If you think publicly shaming people or when you're in Target telling someone who doesn't have a mask on to put a mask on makes you a good person, probably not a good person. Now, we're coming to the tail end of the coronavirus thing now, and people are starting to kind of relax again. Now, if we were honest, this is about the point where we would start being honest with ourselves and admitting that this has probably been the biggest overreaction from a federal government in probably the history of the country. Our reaction to coronavirus cost us way more than the actual coronavirus. That is my stance on it. And I'm expected to pretend like the people who did this, Dr. Fauci, the people at the CDC, the World Health Organization, the Chinese Wuhan virus, novel coronavirus lab in China. I'm expected to believe these people are heroes. They treated the response to coronavirus like they treat socialism. Oh, no. It's not that the results are bad. You should imagine how it would have been if we hadn't done anything. That is what you will never find a government program that is, modeled on socialism that fails, because they all fail. And you will never hear an excuse other than, well, it just wasn't big enough, we didn't spend enough money. It would have been way worse if we hadn't have done it. I am expected to pretend that when all of this is over, it's a good thing that a fifth of our economy is gone and may never come back. It's a good thing that our workforce shrank by 40%. That saved us. From what? And now the studies are coming out. I mean, of course, it's not getting any media attention because it's the truth, and we can't have that on the news, on CNN and MSNBC. But the study from the Cleveland Clinic, where they found, after a trial involving 53,000 individuals, that not a single person who had been diagnosed with coronavirus was reinfected. They came to the conclusion that getting the vaccine offers no more protection than the antibodies you already have in your body if you had coronavirus already. And for the last year, they've been telling you if you've had coronavirus, you still got to get vaccinated, you still got to wear a mask for nothing. And even now, we're pretending like that's not true. Dr. Fauci, it's starting to come out that I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh. It's not funny, but it's kind of funny because we put a lot of faith in this guy. He funded gain-of-function research that actually found its way to the Wuhan lab. He may have been instrumental in funding the lab that is responsible for leaking the deadliest pandemic in our generation. But I'm told you still see signs in the DC area saying, thank you, Dr. Fauci. Like he's Douglas MacArthur or Dwight D. Eisenhower, like he just won a world war or something like that. This is ridiculous, the level of nonsense that we've allowed ourselves to put up with. And if you're on my Facebook page, you see, I wonder how much we're willing to take. I was shocked in the last year when I realized how quickly people don't have their rights taken from them, but willingly give them up. I was shocked. You're supposed to have agency over your body. That is the most sacred freedom. And we allowed a man who we don't know, Anthony Fauci, to tell us that if you don't wear a piece of cloth over your face, you can't get on an airplane. They're still doing it now. They're still doing it. You can't get on an airplane without having a mask on. And I'm not talking Brandon, the 38-year-old guy. I'm talking 2-year-olds. Waking my 2-year-old up every hour. Hey, man, you got to make sure she has a mask over her nose because somehow that's going to save our lives. This is ridiculous. You have allowed yourself to be conditioned to pretend things that you know aren't true, even after you've been presented with the truth. If somebody is chasing a police officer around a car with a knife and the police officer eventually shoots him and you blame the police officer for that, you are not intellectually capable of having a conversation about that topic. And quite frankly, having a conversation with you about it is beneath me. It is ridiculous. We've allowed ourselves to be conditioned to lie. Worst of all, to ourselves and to everybody else. This is getting to be a long video, so I'm going to cut it off here. Hopefully, I'll have another one pretty soon. Whoever's listening, thank you for listening. I'll Try to make these videos better. Please like, share, and subscribe to these videos. Tell your friends about it. Comment as well. I'm out. Have a good one.